Hello everybody and welcome to Toitu to You, Curator's Corner, episode number 37. My name's Sean Brosnan, I'm a curator at Toitu Otago Settlers Museum here in Dunedin, telling stories about our city's pioneer life. And today we're going to deal with the great oatmeal assault scandal of 1851. There are three key players: James McAndrew, pioneer storekeeper and aspiring politician, a Green Island pioneer settler Barbara Shand, and another cantankerous pioneer doctor, Dr. Robert Williams. Now, James McAndrew has featured in this series before, as has his store in Mant Street. McAndrew had only arrived in Otago at the beginning of 1851, but he quickly made his presence felt, not just by establishing the store, but also with his general sense of enthusiasm and boosterism for Dunedin and Otago's potential. He was rapidly elevated to a position of leadership, and this included being appointed a Justice of the Peace. Our second character, Dr. Robert Williams, was also a Justice of the Peace. Now, he came from a distinguished Welsh family. He'd been educated at Oxford University and then trained in London with the very best instruction in medicine and pharmacology before immigrating to Otago as a ship's doctor on the Benicia in 1849 and then staying on. He took up some land on the Taieri Plain just near the Maori Kaik at what is now called Henley. It's not at all clear why he left a comfortable medical practice in England to come to the colony. But finding, as he did on arrival, that Dr. Manning already had all the medical cares of the Dunedin population pretty much covered, he instead opted to take up some land and have a go at farming out there at Henley and travelling far and wide from there to offer medical services as required. By 1851, however, he had been entreated by Captain Cargill to come on in and settle in Dunedin itself. At that stage, Dr. Manning's eccentricities had alienated about half of the population of the township, so there was an opening for a new guy to offer medical services, and Dr. Williams was also appointed coroner and official Otago surgeon. And as noted, he was also appointed a Justice of the Peace to serve on the bench. The other important thing to know about Dr. Williams, who's described by Barr in that history as a peppery Welshman with an impetuous temper, is that he also became the leader of the group known as the Little Enemy. I've referred to this group before, but just as a recap, the Little Enemy means that group of pioneer settlers who were generally English and Anglican, who stood against the pretensions of the Free Church group in Pioneer Otago and kicked against the Tracers as sort of dissidents against their dominance in Pioneer Dunedin. Through 1851, there had been disputes brewing between the two groups, which were played out in fiery public meetings and also in a series of letters to the newspaper that were getting increasingly strident in tone. And in this atmosphere of growing animosity, Dr. Williams was definitely on one side, while James McAndrew was on the other. But both men were decent sorts, community leaders in their own right, and the sort of man who was going to be concerned about and caring for widows and orphans, which is where Barbara Shand comes into the picture. Barbara was from Aberdeenshire, the same county of origin as James McAndrew, and had come to Otago with her husband James and 8 children in 1850. Now, despite having such a large family, the Shands were actually reasonably prosperous farmers back in Scotland, and they came well equipped to take up their land in Otago. Their selection was at Abbotsford in the Green Island bush, but no sooner had James Shand planted his first crops there than he fell ill. He died in August 1851, even before that first harvest had been taken in. Imagine the position that left Barbara in. She had all those children to support and very little money left after she had paid off James's debts. But she did have some land, some stock, and all the farm equipment she would need. And so the 38-year-old widow set to with her children to develop their 12-acre farm to its maximum capacity. James Adam, in his memoir, described Barbara as the founder of agriculture in Otago, and he reckoned that she was the very first settler to show that a living could be made from cropping. But for our purpose today, we need just note that from that harvest of 1851, she had produced a decent stock of oatmeal, that staple of the Scottish diet. and evidently Dr. Williams had taken it upon himself to help her sell it to James McAndrew. Things went awry, however, when rumours began to spread that McAndrew was denigrating the quality of Mrs. Shand's oatmeal and putting customers off buying it in favour of new stock that he had coming in directly from Scotland. Or so claimed Dr. Williams, who went to confront McAndrew about this at his store in Man Street. And it all came to a head with a heated argument in McAndrew's store in November 1851 between the two justices of the peace. You probably won't be surprised to learn that this contretemps ended with Dr. Williams punching McAndrew. McAndrew, of course, promptly took the doctor to court and he was charged with assault and battery. Well, you can imagine how that played out in the tiny settlement. Everybody in town came along to watch the proceedings, all on one side or the other, with hisses and boos or groans and cheers according to who they were supporting as the evidence was presented. Until in the end, the court was cleared. Dr. Williams didn't deny the charges at all. In fact, he seemed quite proud of what he had done. He was duly convicted and fined. And as for Widow Shand, well, as they say, no publicity is bad publicity. And after that promotional boost in 1851, she went on to a long and successful career as one of Pioneer Otago's best farmers.